to the City Council budget meeting of May 27th, 2026. I'd like to welcome you all, call the meeting to order, and ask our clerk to please read the roll.
Thank you. We'll start with Vice Mayor Albert.
Here.
Councilmember Helderschelt.
Here.
Councilor Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Here.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here, thank you. It's only fitting that I ask our Chief Financial Officer if he would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dennis Kaufman.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comments now, and then you do the meeting procedures.
Yes.
Okay, before we get started, just a few things I'd like to share about our budget workshop meeting. Can you all hear that echo?
It's echo.
Okay, thank you. I want to welcome you all and thank our department heads and our staff for the work that's gone into preparing today's budget. Developing and approving the budget is one of the most important responsibilities that we have as a council. Our budget is more than just numbers on a page. It reflects our community priorities, our council goals, our long-term vision, and our values. And every decision that we make has a direct impact on the services that residents rely on every day and for the future direction of our city. So today's important opportunity for us to hear directly from our department leaders about our priority projects, our operational needs, and the goals that we have coming for this next year. These discussions help us better understand not only immediate needs, but also how each investment supports the broader work we do throughout the year. We will adopt the final budget in June, and this process is a culmination of months, actually the entire year, of planning, evaluation, and ongoing conversations that we have with the department heads and our city manager. The work doesn't happen in isolation during our budget season. It reflects the efforts, challenges, and priorities we've been discussing all year long. So on behalf of the council, please know that we appreciate the time and preparation everyone has put into this process, and the fact that what's presented today is a reflection of our council goals. We look forward to productive discussion focused on stewardship, transparency, and meeting the needs of our community. So thank you all for being here.
Great. I'll do our meeting procedures. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council's budget workshop tonight. Agendas are available at the end of the staff table to your left or online on our city's website. All comments from the public should be directed to the City Council and not to staff members or the audience. All speakers must speak from the podium as this meeting is being recorded tonight. And due to the temporary location in our streaming of this meeting, we ask that you be patient as it will take a brief lapse of time from one speaker to the next and also from one item to the next. With that, today being our workshop, public comment will be taken after each segment of the department that is being introduced and being reviewed tonight, and we will do that with every single one of the departments. So please be mindful that we will take public comment just after each presentation. And with that, we can go ahead and move forward.
All right, thank you, Karen. Okay, we will start with our city manager to kick us off.
Public comment.
All right. Right, okay, thank
And
you.
it is 3
That's our
minutes.
city attorney keeping us on target. It's her birthday, by the way, so I'll definitely especially listen to her. So, public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment on any item that's not on the agenda? Now is your time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, close public comment. Thank you, Michelle. And Dom, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. If we pull the agenda up, I'm going to just have some brief comments of introduction, and then I'm going to kick it over to the budget team. And so with that, I'd like to say good evening to the mayor and the council, and those in the community joining us this afternoon. Thank you for being here as we walk through the proposed budget for the coming fiscal year. As we all know, we're operating in a period of continued economic and regulatory uncertainty, national and international policy shifts, market volatility, and questions about long-term federal direction continue to create challenging backdrop for local governments across the country, not just Roseville. We feel this uncertainty at the state level as well, even as they take the steps to narrow their budget deficit. But despite that, Roseville is on a solid footing, and we continue to move forward with clarity and purpose. Our disciplined approach includes fully funding our reserves, holding the line on expenditures, ensuring development pays its fair share as we grow at the westward right now. The approach has been at our foundation for decades and has once again allowed us to bring you a balanced budget and a responsible budget. All this while we're also navigating the realities of growing community, added complexity in our service demand, reinvestment in aging infrastructure, technological advances including cybersecurity protection as we talked about at our workshop, and continuing strong project management across multiple departments. And these are good challenges to have, and they reflect the confidence that people and businesses continue to place in Roseville. Economically, we're seeing important wins. Our retail sector remains strong with added growth from Costco and the new marketplace, Baseline Marketplace, along with new restaurants and retail throughout our city. Our manufacturing sector is continuing to grow, not only from Bosch's transformational semiconductor investment, but also from more than 220 manufacturers across Roseville, representing industries that make computer chips, medical devices, machinery, and all other materials or specialized materials. And that 220 really recognizes a significant increase over the last several years of manufacturing within Roseville, and it's a great add. Our healthcare sector continues to invest in facilities and services here that serve the entire region, not just Roseville. These reinforce our role as a regional economic driver. Even as we prepare for the potential headwinds, like flattening sales tax growth and uncertainties related to state mandates and state and federal funding, this budget also reflects the third year of the Council's 4-year strategic plan, which focuses on 6 priorities: ensure a safe and healthy community, remain fiscally responsible in a changing world, enhance economic vitality, invest in well-planned infrastructure and growth, support community engagement and advocacy, and deliver exceptional city services. And we've made meaningful progress across all 6 areas this past year, thanks to the dedication of our staff and the policy direction of this council. Looking ahead, what sets Roseville apart, especially in uncertain times, is our stability and consistency. People invest here because they know what to expect. We have fair policies, transparent decision-making, high-quality services. That same consistency allows us to recruit and retain exceptional employees who make all of this possible. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the finance department staff, along with the staff in each department, who work diligently and carefully as stewards of public funds to put this budget together. The attention, the review, the transparency are all hallmarks of Roseville's approach. We celebrate a lot of things in this city, from a new soccer complex to new public safety facilities to countless utility infrastructure investments. And this workshop represents a similar feeling of pride and success for the hundreds of staff who take part in this process. So tonight's workshop is an opportunity to review the proposed budget together, hear your feedback, to make sure we remain well-positioned to meet both challenges and opportunities that are in front of us. And so I look forward to the conversation. And with that, I will kick it over to Dennis and the team to run us through the introduction and the agenda and the overall citywide presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Good afternoon, Mayor Bernasconi and council members. My name is Dennis Kaufman. I'm the city's Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. Our agenda today, after my introduction, we'll have finance staff providing the citywide and general fund fiscal overview, as well as a summary of the proposed budget for the general government departments. Then, department budget presentations will be provided by police, fire, parks, recreation, and libraries, development services, public works, and the economic development department. There will be a break for city council deliberation and public comment after the fiscal overview and after each department presentation. The city's budget process is extensive, and it really is a year-round activity. Staff started the budget development process for next fiscal year last fall. As a reminder, the proposed budget being presented today is for the fiscal year that starts this coming July 1st of 2026 and ends on June 30th of 2027. The public process for budget development started back in February with the presentation of the budget development calendar at the February 4th City Council meeting. Then in late February, the City Council met for the annual strategic planning workshop, where you reviewed progress on the 4-year strategic plan and reaffirmed your goals and strategies. We believe the proposed budget aligns with the council's strategic plan. In In late March, the city manager held meetings with each department's leadership team to review their budget proposals before finalizing recommendations for the proposed budget. In April, staff presented a number of budget-related updates to the City Council at regular council meetings, including an update on the city's pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities on April 1st. And at that same meeting, council also adopted updates to the city's financial policies that guide development of the budget. At the April 15th meeting, council received the annual report from the Measure B Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee. And at the same meeting, council received its annual presentation from the Human Resources Department on the status of the city's position vacancies and retention efforts as required by state law. At the May 6th council meeting, staff from Public Works, Roseville Electric, Environmental Utilities, and Parks, Recreation, and Libraries presented the city's proposed capital improvement project budget for next year. And staff from Roseville Electric and the Environmental Utilities Departments presented their proposed budgets to the City Council. On Friday, May 15th, the City Council released the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027. And then that brings us to today, our budget workshop, which is an opportunity for the City Council and the public to hear presentations and comment on the citywide budget, the city's financial condition and economic trends, and the proposed operating budgets for the general fund departments. And then finally, at the June 17th City Council meeting, staff will present the proposed budget for final consideration and adoption. In addition to the many council presentations between February and May and budget adoption in June, the city communicates budget information using a variety of tools, including the one-page budget overview summary, which is available up here at the table if anybody didn't get one on their way in. We also include the city website. We send out information about the budget through the city's e-newsletters. After the budget is adopted, we produce a trifold budget in brief pamphlet so that the council can provide those to constituents. The proposed budget is available on the city website and is included in the city's newsletter, as I mentioned, as well as being pushed out in social media. And then throughout the process, the city shares budget updates with city employees. Tonight we'll provide a lot of information about the proposed citywide budget and information focusing on the general fund. Our goal tonight is to confirm with the council that the recommendations in the proposed budget align with the strategic plan by maintaining service levels as Roseville grows, addressing new state and federal mandates, enhancing service levels for council's strategic plan goals, and maintaining reserves and paying down obligations. The proposed budget also addresses Measure B priorities to maintain essential services, add services as the city grows, and make fiscal health investments. This budget increases the general fund reserves to the council-approved target levels and continues to pay the required amounts for the city's CalPERS pension obligations and the retiree health liability. So as a wrap-up to my introduction, this proposed budget was developed conservatively to address fiscal concerns while also being cautiously optimistic about opportunities that will generate additional revenue and maintaining the city's fiscal responsibility. Our concerns include the slower sales tax revenue growth that we've been seeing compared to the initial years after the pandemic. Many of the city's expenses continue to increase faster than our revenues. Examples include insurance, claims costs, and software subscriptions. The level of economic uncertainty is elevated due to federal and international actions, and the potential for an economic downturn is always part of our planning, and you'll hear a little bit about that tonight. And the city has limited resources in some of our capital funding programs. Our significant opportunities include new development, like additional retailers at Baseline Marketplace, where the new Costco opened earlier this year, and new amenities, including the soccer complex, which will bring in new revenues. We believe this proposed budget maintains fiscal responsibility, consistent with the city's mission and the city council's strategic plan goals. It keeps the city living within its means, and it continues to provide core services to residents and businesses in Roseville. So at this point, finance staff will present the fiscal overview, and then we'll be available for questions and public comment. And as a reminder, council will also take public comment after each department's budget presentation. Thank you. No.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor Burnham County Council members. Scott Pettengell, Finance Director for the city. And joining me this afternoon to present an overview of our fiscal year 27 proposed budget are Nancy Roethlisberger, our Assistant Finance Director, and Jackie Rice, our Budget Manager. So in terms of our agenda, Nancy will begin with an overview of the citywide budget, including revenues, expenditures, staffing levels, and our capital improvement program. Then following that, Jackie will cover the general fund revenues, expenditures, along with our long-term financial planning. I'll then walk through our annual general fund discretionary resources calculation and analysis that we do and provide an overview of our general fund forecast. Jackie will then conclude with budget highlights for the general fund, general government departments. And then we'll open it up for any questions you may have. But before I hand things off to Nancy, I did want to take a moment to thank all the city staff who contributed to this year's budget. Developing the budget is truly a citywide effort, and we appreciate the time, collaboration, and dedication that went into it this year. And I'd like to especially recognize our budget team, who consists of Paula Beckman, Natalia Lochno, and Claudia Carreno, and led by Jackie Rice, for all the tremendous amount of work and preparation involved in preparing another award-worthy financial plan for the city. They're simply an amazing team, and we truly appreciate the effort and care that they put into developing this year's budget. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Nancy to kick us off.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm Nancy Roethlisberger, the Assistant Finance Director. As Scott mentioned, I'm going to begin today with an overview of the citywide proposed budget, and we're going to start with revenues. In this budget, total revenues are estimated at $885 million. That is a $75 million increase over last year's total. And you can see here in the chart that enterprise funds our enterprise funds together bring in 54%, the majority of our citywide revenues. Enterprise funds include electric and the environmental utilities funds, as well as transit and a few others. And then the general funds account for 27% of citywide revenues. And these support our core city services, such as police, fire, parks, recreation, and libraries, streets, and many others. The remaining 19% of our revenues are in other funds, including our special districts. And overall, the distribution among these categories is consistent with prior years. Moving on to expenditures. The city's total expenditure budget for FY27 is $877 million. That's up from $827 million last year. Like our citywide revenues, the share of each major category here is consistent with prior years. The largest portion of our budget is in salaries, wages, and benefits. That's about $333 million, 38% of our budget. Our material supplies and services account for $247 million. That's 28% there. And as far as projects, both our capital and non-capital projects are budgeted this year at $114 million. That is 13% of our budget. And the also we have there, we've called out purchase power from electric. This year, that's $96 million. That's 11% of our entire city budget. And the remaining 10%, that's about $87 million. That falls into the other category, which includes things like debt service and transfers to other funds. Now we're going to take a look at staffing changes that are included in this year's proposed budget. So to address growing community needs and the council's priorities, departments had initially requested 30 new positions, but due to budget constraints, this proposed budget includes a net increase of 14 positions. That's a 1% increase in staffing, and that's by adding 18 positions and eliminating 4 positions. And in total, this budget supports 1,433 positions citywide. Additionally, the budget includes funding for 2 positions that will come back to the City Council at a later date once the classification is established by Human Resources. Taking a closer look at our positions by department, you're going to hear from Development Services, PRL, Police, and Public Works here shortly, and they'll discuss their positions. And then you heard from Electric and Environmental Utilities at the May 6th council meeting. So I'll just briefly mention Information Technology and Public Affairs and Communications. IT is eliminating one database analyst position that's due to a promotional reclass. And Public Affairs and Communications, they're adding a marketing and communications analyst, but this doesn't have a budgetary impact. There was an existing, a limited term position in there that's already budgeted, and they need to convert that to a regular position due to ongoing workload. And one more slide on our staffing changes. This summarizes the recommended position increases by council priority and highlights the primary driver for each of these. Of the 18 new positions included in this budget, 7 support the priority of delivering exceptional city services, 4 support the priority of investing in well-planned infrastructure and growth, and 7 support the priority of ensuring a safe and healthy community. Most of these proposed positions are needed to maintain service level as our city grows. And now we'll do a quick overview of our 5-year capital improvement program, our CIP. The FY27 budget includes $90.5 million of capital projects appropriations. The majority of these are in electric, PRL, and the wastewater and water utilities. Department staff presented this FY27 CIP at the May 6th council meeting. And as you'll recall, notable projects include the Roseville Aquatics Complex, the RAC renovations, the Phase 2 of construction at Pistachio Park out west, new electric customer service connections, the Holt substation for electric, West Roseville recycled water pump station improvements, and recycled water reliability pipeline improvements. We've also incorporated the department's long-term capital planning into the 5-year CIP, and that's included in your budget book. And that shows that $619 million in capital spending is anticipated over the next 5 years. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jackie Rice, our budget manager, for an overview of the general fund.
Thanks, Nancy. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm Jackie Rice, budget manager. I'll now move on to an overview of general fund revenue included in the FY27 budget. The 3 most significant revenue sources in the general fund are the Bradley Burns sales tax, the Measure B local sales tax, and property tax. Bradley Burns sales tax is anticipated to grow by approximately 4.5% compared to the forecasted revenues for this current fiscal year. This growth equates to the estimated $76.1 million included in the FY27 budget. Measure B sales tax is projected to increase by approximately 4.6% compared to FY26 forecasted revenues, amounting to $32.5 million. This projection, like the Bradley Burns, is also based on our sales tax consultant's most likely forecast. This forecast reflects moderate sales tax growth that is in line with historical averages and statewide trends. The forecast also reflects additional revenues associated with the baseline marketplace development. Property tax revenue is estimated to grow by approximately 5% to $85.2 million for fiscal year 27. I'd like to note here that a portion of this revenue growth is returned to the county under the city's annexation tax sharing agreements. This next chart provides a breakdown of all general fund revenues, which total $258 million. The 3 revenues we just discussed, Bradley Burns sales tax, Measure B sales tax, and property tax, make up the majority of our general fund revenues at 74%. The remaining 26% is made up of licenses and permits, the electric franchise fee, and charges for services, as well as other taxes. To provide more insight into our revenue forecast for Bradley Burns sales tax, here's a chart that shows the FY26 actuals received by category. Sales tax generated from general retail, including transactions from places like the Roseville Galleria and transportation-related purchases from places like the Roseville Auto Mall and gas stations, continue to account for a significant portion of our local business revenue, constituting 65%. I note this because it underscores the importance of consumer retail spending and transportation-related activities in contributing to our overall sales tax revenue. The remaining revenue is derived from various sources, including food products, business-to-business transactions, and construction activity. This chart shows quarterly Bradley Burns sales tax trends for several of the city's major retail centers from the second quarter of 23 through the fourth quarter of 2025. Overall, the data reflects stable performance with quarter-to-quarter fluctuations that are generally consistent with normal consumer spending patterns, seasonal activity, and broader economic conditions. The auto mall, shown in blue at the top of the chart, continues to be one of the city's strongest sales tax generators. Revenues were approximately $3 million in each of the last 2 quarters, following a dip to roughly $2.5 million during Q1 and Q2. The Galleria, shown in dark purple, has also remained relatively stable overall, with stronger performance during the holiday shopping season. Revenues exceeded $2 million in Q4 of 2025. Creekside and Fountains, shown in red and green respectively, continue to perform steadily with generally consistent trends over time. From a broader perspective, these trends support the FY27 budget assumption of base sales tax growth consistent with historical averages. Staff will continue to closely monitor consumer spending trends, inflationary pressures, and overall economic conditions as part of the city's ongoing revenue forecasting efforts through the coming year. I'll now turn to a multi-year comparison of sales tax revenue, including the collection of Measure B, which started in FY19. As mentioned, the proposed budget includes estimates of approximately $76.1 million in Bradley Burns revenues and $32.5 million in Measure B revenue, and just under $109 million overall. This chart illustrates the trajectory of sales tax revenues over the past several years. Following the pandemic, sales tax growth began to flatten with only minimal growth from FY22 through FY26. For FY27, we are projecting a return to more historical growth trends, while also factoring in additional revenue associated with baseline marketplace. Shifting the focus to property tax, this slide provides a multi-year history of the city's property tax revenue. The proposed budget includes an estimate of $85.2 million. As the graph depicts, property tax revenue has consistently grown over the past decade. This growth can be attributed to the city's overall expansion and increasing property values. Looking ahead over the coming year, we will continue to monitor housing market activity and property value trends. And now I'll move on to an overview of the general fund expenditures. This next slide provides a summary of the general fund operating expenditures by department, providing insights into how our budget is allocated. Our total general fund operating expenditure budget amounts to $258 million. About half of the general fund operating budget is allocated towards public safety, underscoring that the budget is aligned with the City Council's public safety goals. Additionally, the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department receives 17% of the general fund. The remaining portion of the budget is dedicated to general government departments, along with the Public Works and Development Services departments. Lastly, the other category encompasses items such as transfers to other funds. This next slide breaks down our general fund expenditure budget into 3 main categories. The first is salaries, wages, and benefits, which represents the largest portion of the general fund at 66%. This includes compensation and benefits for the city employees in the departments we just showed on that dollar bill graphic. Next is materials, supplies, and services at 30%. This category covers the cost of goods and contracted services the city needs to operate. It includes things like fuel, equipment, maintenance, and professional services. Finally, transfers out to other funds make up approximately 4% of the general fund budget. This category reflects the movement of resources from the general fund to support other city operations and capital projects, as well as maintaining our reserves. The proportional share of each of these categories is similar to prior years. This next slide provides an overview of the spending plan of the FY24-25 general fund surplus. The total surplus was $11.64 million. Earlier this fiscal year, the City Council approved a transfer of $671,000 from the surplus to the Youth Development Fund in accordance with the Council's Youth Development Funding Policy. The remaining $10.97 million was appropriated in the FY27 budget for several key one-time investments. The largest allocation supports renovations at the Roseville Aquatics Complex. These improvements include ADA upgrades to locker rooms and showers, as well as replacement of aging pool infrastructure components that have reached the end of their useful life. The budget also includes one-time funding for a potential supplemental assessment within the city's general liability risk pool. In addition, funding is included for a variety of citywide infrastructure, operational, and technology needs. These investments support streetscape improvements, replacement of aging public safety and operational equipment, park maintenance vehicles and equipment, and soccer field turf replacement. The budget also continues the city's human resources file digitization efforts and provides funding for public safety software and technology upgrades. Lastly, funding is included for a pilot fire cadet program intended to support workforce development and help build a pipeline for future public safety staffing needs. And now moving on to our strategies for long-term financial planning. As we develop the general fund budget each year, we focus not only on balancing revenues and expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year, but also on planning for the city's long-term financial sustainability, guided by our adopted financial policies. After accounting for the increasing costs of city operations and the proposed augmentations included in this budget, the proposed FY27 budget includes a $2 million transfer of general fund resources into the stabilization reserve. This transfer is necessary to maintain the council policy target of 15% of general fund operating expenditures. In addition, the budget includes a $1.4 million transfer into the general fund emergency reserve to maintain the council policy target of 10% of general fund operating expenditures. The stabilization reserve is intended to help address revenue shortfalls during economic downturns, while the emergency reserve is intended to fund expenditures necessary during emergencies. The City Council has established 2 strategies to address pension liabilities once general fund reserve targets are met under its strategic plan goal to remain fiscally responsible. Under the first strategy, the Council approved a pension funding policy that includes contributions to a Section 115 pension trust fund. Section 115 refers to a provision of the Internal Revenue Code that allows governments to establish a tax-exempt trust for a governmental purpose. This pension trust is used to set aside resources specifically to meet future pension contributions or liabilities. These resources are irrevocably restricted for pension obligations. Additionally, the trust can serve as a rate stabilization fund to help ease budgetary pressures from unanticipated spikes in required employer contribution rates from CalPERS. The current year, the FY26 budget includes a planned transfer of $800,000 from the General Fund Pension Reserve Trust Fund. However, if adequate general fund resources are available at year end, this transfer would not be needed. For FY27, the upcoming fiscal year, $4.1 million is being transferred from the General Fund Pension Reserve Trust Fund to the General Fund to help address increasing general fund pension costs. If both of these transfers occur, the estimated FY27 ending balance of the trust fund will be approximately $19.9 million, which includes accumulated investment returns. Next, I'll review the City Council's second strategy for addressing pension liabilities, which prioritizes making additional discretionary payments, or ADPs, to CalPERS once general fund reserve targets have been met. The most recent CalPERS actuarial valuation reflects a funded ratio of 67%, with an unfunded liability of approximately $501 million. The projected annual pension cost for FY27 is approximately $70 million. The proposed FY27 budget does not include any additional discretionary payments or ADPs toward the unfunded pension liability. This reflects the budget challenges associated with increasing general fund costs and the flattening of tax revenue growth discussed earlier. However, Staff intends to continue recommending additional ADPs when one-time resources become available. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Scott.
Thanks, Sharon. So next, I'll walk through an analysis that we do each year, just to better understand how much our general fund revenue is truly discretionary. And the reason why we do this analysis is because it helps us identify the portion of the general fund resources that remain flexible after accounting for funds that are restricted or otherwise committed. So on this next graphic, it provides an overview of this annual analysis that we do. So we begin with the total general fund operating revenue budget of $258 million. And from there, we subtract $54 million in expenditures that are supported by dedicated revenues, such as service charges, franchise fees, and permit revenues, leaving about $204 million supported by general tax revenues. Next, we subtract $32 million in non-discretionary expenditures, which include contractual obligations and council-directed commitments. And this leaves about $172 million in discretionary spending supported by the city's major tax revenues. Of that amount, more than half, approximately $108 million, is proposed to fund police and fire services. And as shown in the bottom right of this graphic, that remaining $64 million is allocated to all other general fund functions. And this includes things like parks, recreation, libraries, street maintenance, floodplain management, code enforcement, economic development, and our general government departments. So overall, this analysis helps illustrate how limited our city's general fund resources are once our major obligations and core services are accounted for. And while the general fund revenue budget totals $258 million in revenues, only about $64 million remain after accounting for dedicated revenues, non-discretionary obligations, and our police and fire services. If anyone's interested in diving more into the details of this calculation, we do provide a more detailed version of it in the budget book on pages C23 and 24. So another step or another tool that we use for long-term financial planning is our general fund forecast. And we prepare this forecast for several reasons. First, it helps staff make prudent financial recommendations. Second, it places financial decisions in more of a longer-term context. And third, it helps us identify and better understand the key factors that drive the city's revenues and expenditures. And by preparing this forecast on a regular basis, we improve our ability to develop more accurate budgets and respond more proactively in changing financial conditions. On this next graph, included in the budget overview section of the budget book, it provides a high-level illustration of 3 potential revenue scenarios compared to projected expenditure growth under the most likely forecast scenario through fiscal year 32. The gray bars on this graph represent forecasted expenditures, while the purple, blue, and turquoise lines represent forecasted revenues. The purple line reflects the less favorable scenario, the blue line reflects the more favorable scenario, and that turquoise line reflects the city's most likely forecast. And the graph shows how changes in revenue growth over time can impact the city's long-term financial outlook. As with any forecast, there is a significant degree of uncertainty. And this graph is intended to provide a simplified illustration of this process, and it does not capture the full complexity of the assumptions involved or the wide range of possible outcomes. So next, I wanted to walk you through some of the key assumptions behind the forecast and explain the process in more detail. And this slide provides an overview of several of the major factors that are included as well as not included in our general fund forecast. First, some of the key factors that we include in the forecast are estimated revenue growth, including activity associated with baseline marketplace, as Jackie mentioned. Labor cost projections are based on current MOUs and anticipated staffing needs. The forecast assumes inflation will gradually moderate over the forecast period. And we've also incorporated funding assumptions related to pensions, retiree health benefits, OPEB, and infrastructure rehab needs. And finally, the forecast includes the impacts of known state and federal mandates and regulatory requirements. There's also several important factors that are not included in this forecast, and that's either because they remain too uncertain or depend on future policy or economic conditions. The forecast does not assume additional new revenue sources beyond the baseline marketplace, It also does not include future labor market adjustments beyond our current MOUs. In addition, the forecast does not assume an extended period of elevated inflation. And finally, it excludes the impacts of any significant new federal or state regulatory requirements. And so while the forecast provides an important long-term planning tool, it's equally important to understand both the assumptions built into the model and the uncertainties that it could affect future outcomes. The forecast is developed by first estimating future growth rates for our existing general fund revenues. And because our future is inherently uncertain, we develop 3 different revenue scenarios: a base case scenario, a more favorable scenario, and a less favorable scenario. And all 3 scenarios begin with fiscal year 27 off to the left, where revenues are estimated to reach 258 million and grow to between 273 million and 315 million over the forecast period, which you see over to the right. As a result, the difference between the more favorable and less favorable scenarios in that final year of the forecast is approximately 42 million. And I did want to point out here that the chart axis has been adjusted to begin at 150 million, and we do that just to better illustrate the revenue scenarios rather than having them scrunched together. This next graph shows the general fund operating expenditure forecast, which starts at approximately 258 million and grows to approximately 315 million by fiscal year 32. The expenditure forecast includes several key assumptions, which I touched upon earlier. First, it assumes the addition of approximately 8 to 10 new positions annually from fiscal year 28 through fiscal year 32. These positions would be fully funded by our general fund and are intended to help maintain city service levels as the community continues to grow. Second, the forecast includes some modest compensation increases to help ensure the city remains competitive in attracting and retaining employees. And finally, the forecast incorporates known or anticipated increase to our pension costs, medical premiums, and other employee benefit costs over that forecasted period. On this graph, we show the 3 general fund revenue scenarios overlaid against the city's long-term expenditure forecast. And you'll notice that all 3 revenue scenarios align with projected expenditures in fiscal year 27, where we have a balanced budget. Around fiscal year 29, though, you start to see how projected expenditure growth begins to outpace projected revenue growth under each of the scenarios. It's important to note here that this forecast is intended as a long-range planning tool and incorporates conservative assumptions regarding future costs, including inflationary pressures, pension obligations, and the potential addition of approximately 8 to 10 positions annually to support ongoing service demands. So these assumptions are intended to help evaluate future operational capacity and identify potential financial pressures early as part of the city's long-term financial planning process. And as part of the city's regular budget process, expenditure growth can be adjusted over time to better align with actual revenue trends and economic conditions. So for example, during slower economic periods, the city would moderate hiring or phase in staffing additions more gradually. In the near time, the city may utilize also our pension reserve trust as proposed in fiscal year 27 to help manage increasing pension costs, which are currently projected to peak in fiscal year 29. And finally, the city continues to maintain strong reserve levels to help ensure financial stability and preparedness for potential economic downturns or other unforeseen challenges. So as part of our budget planning process, we also model potential recession scenarios, just to help us ensure the city is preparing for future economic downturns. And this graph, the dotted red line, illustrates an example recession scenario that begins in fiscal year 28 with impacts lasting over several years. And to be clear here, we're not predicting when a recession will occur. Rather, including this scenario just reflects our commitment to prudent long-term financial planning. Maintaining strong general fund reserves is really a critical tool for managing through the initial years of any sort of economic downturn. And as this graph illustrates, even if a recession that is only half as severe and half as long as the Great Recession, it would still have a significant impact on our city revenues. And under this type of scenario, the city would need to reduce expenditures while strategically utilizing our reserves. The stabilization reserve would not eliminate the need to make budget adjustments, but it would provide the city with some additional time to respond thoughtfully and strategically rather than reactively. And again, I did want to emphasize that, this is a recession scenario intended only for illustration, and we're not predicting a recession. It is based on numerous assumptions that will not be exactly correct, but this exercise helps us prepare for a range of different possible economic outcomes. So overall, the key takeaway from this 5-year forecast is that the city's general fund revenue portfolio is projected to sustain our current service levels and help protect Roseville's quality of life. But we must remain vigilant and proactive in our long-term financial planning. And that includes maintaining healthy reserves, regularly updating our fees and charges to support cost recovery, building future budget capacity through strategies as additional CalPERS payments and our pension reserve trust, and continuing to identify efficiencies in how services are delivered. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jackie, who's going to go over our general government department budgets.
Thank you, Scott. Before we hear from the other city departments about their proposed budgets today, I will highlight some of the changes in the general government department's proposed budgets. This chart shows all the general government departments along with FY25 actuals, the FY26 amended budget, the proposed FY27 budget, and the year-over-year change between the two budget years. So we'll start with the city council budget. Expenditures decreased compared to the prior year. Materials, supplies, and services costs did increase, but they were fully offset by increased reimbursements from other funds through the annual citywide cost allocation plan. The city clerk's budget increased by about 13% as compared to last year. This increase is primarily due to the general municipal election scheduled for November 3rd of 2026. The increase in the city manager's office budget is primarily driven by a one-time cost for a Clifton Strengths coaching workshop hosted by Gallup, and the addition of the citywide Organizational Culture and Leadership Committee, our OCNL committee budget, which moved from the Public Affairs and Communications Department. These cost increases are partially offset by higher reimbursements through the citywide cost allocation plan. The Public Affairs and Communications budget decreased by 2% from last year, mainly due to the shifting of the OCNL Leadership Committee budget to the City Manager's office. Additionally, this budget includes an additional regular marketing and communications analyst position, converted from an existing limited term position to support ongoing citywide needs. This conversion does not have any budgetary impact, as Nancy mentioned earlier. The city attorney's budget increased by 8%, mainly due to increasing labor costs, including the addition of a deputy city attorney position in FY26. Costs for materials and supplies also increased due to higher general liability and workers' compensation premiums and claim costs. These increases are partially offset by higher reimbursements from the citywide cost allocation plan. The finance department budget decreased compared to last year, primarily due to higher reimbursements from the citywide cost allocation plan that help offset rising costs for labor and supplies. The IT department's budget increased by 3% compared to last year. The increase is primarily driven by rising costs for software licensing, cybersecurity, infrastructure upgrades, materials, and contracted services, as well as continued investments in system modernization and the replacement of aging equipment. The budget also includes new funding for additional cybersecurity tools and support for the city's data center network. Additionally, the budget includes the deletion of one database analyst position due to a promotional reclassification. The human resources budget increased by 5% from last year. This budget increase is primarily due to rising labor costs and workers' compensation and general liability fund insurance premiums and claims costs. Increased reimbursement from citywide indirect cost allocation plan partially offset these increases. This budget includes funding to hire consultants to assist in creating a fiduciary committee for deferred compensation, retirement plan oversight, leadership training and succession planning, and $80,000 in funding from the FY25 general fund surplus to continue converting paper files to digital records to improve efficiency and reduce storage needs. And that concludes the highlights for the general government department budgets, and I'll turn it back over to Scott.
Thank you, Jackie. So that concludes our presentation, and we're available to answer any questions at this point in time. before you open up for any public comments, and then hear from other department directors about their proposed budget. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Does the council have any questions of staff before we open it up to public comment? Okay. There's a lot of information, so we'll hang tight.
Yeah, sorry, Mary, I always have questions, so. I'm just trying to organize this in a valuable way. Simple question, on your sales tax trend, and the Bradley Burns and Measure B, where in there does the online sales tax, the Wayfair tax, where does that fit into that revenue forecast?
Yeah, it's in the blue bar with the
In the blue
Bradley
bar?
Burn, with the Bradley Burn sales tax, so it's incorporated into those numbers.
Are you, is the forecast, or are you, what trend are you seeing? Are you seeing a similar trend in that as with other sales tax revenue? A softening
Yeah.
in that area?
Yeah, overall, what we're seeing is a softening, and we're thinking that, and our consultants are telling us that our future year sales tax growth is going to be more in the kind of historical averages of 2 to 3%. We are seeing shifting consumer behavior, though, where more things are getting purchased online, and so we are receiving more money in the areas of online retail versus brick and mortar sales. But overall, we're thinking about 2 to 3% range, which aligns with our historical
And
averages.
remind me, do we get that just as if we walked out the door and purchased something at the fountains? Do we get, 1 for 1? I mean, or do we just get a portion of that because it's passed through the county?
Well, for our Bradley Burns, we get our full 1% of that sales tax. Yeah.
And that includes the Wayfair online?
If it's bought online, then we receive that full 1% too.
Thank you. On the general fund operating expenditures, the salary, wages, and benefits, there's a percentage there. I was curious how that might compare with previous years. It says 66%. Is that an increase over previous years?
I think it was 64% in the prior year, so it's gone up a little bit compared to.
Because what I'm hearing from both your presentation and the city manager's presentation is that services or costs are increasing and revenue is flattening, whether it's property tax or not. So on the slide that showed the operating expenditure forecast, shows 258 million in FY 26-27. I'm just doing rough math. Does that mean that we have an operating expenditure of 21.5 million a month? Or let me ask it in the form of a question. What is our operating revenue? What are our operating expenditures on a monthly basis?
They vary month to month depending on, if we're incurring a major cost for a capital cost or a major material service supply type of expenditure. But on average, if you were going to estimate out how much we're spending, you would just divide that number by 12.
That 258 by 12. So
Yeah.
that's where I got 21.5 million a month on average, right?
On average.
Yeah, on
And
average.
the reason why I wanted to point that out is we've been very prudent and visionary, and we have reserves, but our stabilization reserve is 38 million, and the emergency reserve is 25 million. In 2020, there's always something we don't anticipate out there. I'm just kind of trying to contrast this with our reserves, so let's put it in the proper context. Yeah, I'll have more later, thanks. Oh, no, I'll have more later, thank you.
Okay. We'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on the fiscal overview portion of the budget? Now is your time to come forward.
Just a reminder, all speakers will have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Sweeney. You have seen me here a number of times. Thank you for having this in-depth conversation, and what I'm really looking forward to watching and participating as a public member here is the discussion. You know, how are you weighing the really tough decisions ahead of us, and how are you digging into making these decisions? Because that's what I want to know. I want to know why we are making the decisions we are making. I have 3 things that I want to bring as a public commenter. It's a very long document, 600 pages plus, but I found the single sentence kind of overview of the Northwest Lighting and Landscape District assessment that we've talked about before. I see that there's $647,000 that was inadvertently spent, and I would just ask that we get some additional information about how many years that was covering, what's the plan to make sure that that doesn't happen again, what is the remedy, because when money is not spent in a maintenance way, the cost of maintenance compounds. So deferred maintenance is more costly than maintenance done in time. I also had a couple neighbors ask if that included inflation and interest, so I don't know any of those answers. So those are things that we would love to have answered as part of the budget discussion. The second thing is talking about the whole course correction. So we know that there was a degradation of services in the Northwest specific plan because of funding limitations or perceived funding limitations in this Northwest LLD. And the cost of deferred maintenance is really impacting a very specific part of our community. It is also costing the entire city, because when our property values are going down because of deferred maintenance, because it's not safe to walk down your sidewalks and travel on your corridors, people don't want to shop there. People don't want to buy a house there. So there is a cost for the entire city when we do not take care of the neighborhoods that are here. So I'd like to hear what the whole course correction is for the Northwest specific plan area. And then finally, I'd love to hear more about the long-term plan, that as the general fund discretionary resources continue to shrink, because we know that most of that general fund is going to staffing and it is increasing. We're not going to cut essential services like fire and police. So what happens to my neighborhood? That's what I want to hear. How are you tackling that hard choice of what happens to the older neighborhoods as the general fund is squeezed by ongoing cost inflation and growth? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to make a public comment on the general overview? Now is your time. Is that it? Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you all very much for the overview. And we will move into police chief, the police department, and we will be hearing from our chief of police, Jeff B.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I am Jeff B. I'm your Chief of Police. With me this afternoon is Mark Panato, our Police Department's budget analyst. And we are pleased to present you with our budget request for the coming budget year for the Police Department. Our budget plan for this coming year is fairly straightforward, with a few position requests and funding for ongoing projects and equipment. All right, so here you can see how our department is divided up into 4 major divisions. Operations is led by a captain, which includes patrol and our special operations units. Patrol is the largest unit in the department, and this is where our frontline response to calls for service takes place. Over 60% of our sworn staffing lives in patrol. Investigative services is led by a captain, includes our detective units, regional task force assignments, crime suppression unit, crime analysis, and our real-time crime center. Community services is led by a captain and includes our social services, school resource officers, traffic, animal control, professional standards, public affairs, and our budget. Professional services is headed by 2 police administrators and includes dispatch, property and evidence, CSI, and records. And next, we'll look at our budgeting process, which is broken up into 9 categories to account for our major funding areas. Our overall budget request heading into the year is $77.2 million, which is up from our current year budget of $69.2 million. This is an 11.6% increase, primarily due to increased labor costs and SPCA contract costs. The police department is a people business, so the vast majority of our expenses are related to the staffing needed to accomplish our mission, and then the equipment, training, and resources to support them in doing their roles. Nearly our entire budget comes from the general fund and accounts for 30% of the overall city's general fund. While our budget request is 11.6% increase, last year's budget was 29% of the overall general fund. So in comparison, our overall impact to the overall general fund is 1% greater. As you can see from the pie chart, the bulk of our budget is in patrol, but that's also the largest division in the department and where the bulk of our services are provided. The next largest section is our admin budget, but that is due to our internal services being housed in our admin budget and accounts for $5.7 million for facility services, facility rehab, and IT service costs. It's basically all the things that help keep our department running, keep the lights on, and keeping it clean. This is up from $4.7 million in our current year budget. Next up is our budget highlights. Currently, the police department is staffed with 160 sworn positions and 76 professional staff positions for a total staffing of 236 personnel. Our request for this year will add 3 police officer positions and 1 professional staff position for a total staffing of 240 personnel. Those 4 positions are directly tied to the B-8 expansion. Despite the increase in the city's population that we've experienced year over year, we saw a 7.7% decrease in overall crime last year. These position adds will expand our service response to the west side of our city and help us continue to focus on crime reduction strategies to ensure a safe and healthy community. Next up is our miscellaneous budget adds, so equipment and services, totaling $657,515. Some of the larger items is our Axon, our transition to Axon, which is our body-worn camera system, as well as several additional services that it provides to our department. We also have Peregrine software, Flock, which allows us to use technology to help support our real-time crime center. We also have things like canine replacement. We have a couple dogs that are aging out and retiring, and so it allows us to replenish those, as well as several other things, including equipment to help transition from things like our rifle light replacements, which are aging and no longer in good use. And with that, do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions of our chief before we move over?
Maybe.
Comment?
Sorry.
I'm looking at this, Chief, with the additional people and with the equipment that we have. You're very much capable of covering all of our city?
Yes, we feel very comfortable with our response as of right now. By adding the equipment or by adding the personnel, it allows us to continue to expand our coverages on the west side of the city. So these positions are specific to our B-8 expansion, which we opened up earlier this year. And so this will allow us to cover additional patrol shifts on both sides of the week, to provide that coverage through the city. And so, yes, for us, we feel very comfortable in these ads that it will continue to provide that high level of service that our community is accustomed to.
Because that's the way I feel when you're talking about adding the addition on the west side, but what that also means is it makes sure the rest of our city is covered well, because we're not sending more people over there, we're adding people so that we're covering the city.
It does not change our current response, so our police, the city is broken up into 8 police beats. 1 through 7 were existing, beat 8 is obviously new. None of these position ads shift any of those personnel over, so beats 1 through 7 will continue to maintain 24-hour coverage throughout the year, throughout the week, throughout the day. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Chief. I just had a question, or maybe it's more of a clarification. On the last slide, you had the Axon body cameras, and then below it, there we go, thank you, you had the software subscription. During last year's budget presentation, I had asked then our old chief, does this Axon body cameras, does that also include the software to communicate back to the vehicles, or are we still shopping? Last year we were shopping for that. Are we still shopping?
That's correct. So we still have a little over a year, approximately a year and a half left on the existing contract for in-car cameras. And so currently, that is a vendor that we will most likely be transitioning to Axon once that contract is up, but we are still in contract with that.
So that's basically needs to phase out before we can have that discussion?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
I have a question. Thank you again, and I appreciate seeing the increase of patrol. Clarification on the motor, even though it says beat 8, the motor, like traffic enforcement kind of moves citywide, right?
That is correct. So really what our goal is to provide a motor per beat. And so just like our patrol officers are each assigned a beat, our motors are also assigned beats essentially. And so if there are traffic issues within that area, it'll be assigned out to a motor to become primary to help deal with whatever traffic issues that we're experiencing. With that being said, if we need additional motors, they will all go out to assist each other to accomplish whatever issue that we are facing.
Yeah, and I've seen an increase, in fact, outside my neighborhood yesterday on the west side, and so I do appreciate, I think with new growth, it seems to bring more speeding on some of those open roads. So I do have a question. As we are growing positions, I know with residential and commercial growing, how are we keeping up with our detectives and the investigation unit? Are you feeling like there's backlogs that might be occurring because of the growth, or are we keeping up with increasing there?
Yeah, so that is something that we consistently monitor, the workload that goes on our detective unit or investigative unit, and specifically each individual detective. And so one thing that we did with this beat 8 expansion is we looked at our entire police department as a whole. And so as we decided to add an 8th beat, with that came the additional positions throughout our department. So everything from not only patrol and motors, but to investigators, dispatchers, records clerks, to really look at, as the city continued to grow, so did our police department, to ensure that we're keeping up with the crimes, ensuring that our detectives aren't getting backlogged, more so, and they can respond appropriately to crimes occurring in those areas as well.
I know our crime rate's going down, so it's a good trend.
Yes.
Hopefully we continue, but I'm glad that you're paying attention to kind of just the increased needs across the department.
Absolutely.
That's all I have.
Chief, in your expenditure budget, you have 4% for animal control, and I know in the city manager's budget message, you mentioned one of the challenges is animal care payments to Placer SPCA. Is that 4%, does that cover that?
Yes, it does include that.
Yeah.
I know that was part of our, yes, that was part of that 11% growth that we saw from this year over last year. And so that did include the SPCA costs.
As one council member, I'd like to understand that relationship with Placer SPCA and the cost. So if the council's interested, in understanding that better and how it's impacting us and our budget.
Doing that.
Actually,
If I may,
I had that in my notes and I forgot to bring it up, so I agree.
I'm trying not to
Yeah.
take.
Are you reading my
all-
notes?
No.
If I may, Councilmember Howard, Vice Mayor Albert. So since 2020, we've seen about a 230% increase in our SPCA fees, almost doubling the contract costs. And so as a result of that, meeting with the SPCA leadership and exacting a clause in the contract, we've asked for an audit. And so, completely agree. I think it's appropriate to learn more. And so we're going through that process now. We back to City Council, most likely the second meeting in June or the meeting in July with a contractor selected to do the audit. And then certainly bringing that back to the City Council with recommendations from staff on where to go from here.
Yeah, and I say that as a supporter of SPCA, and my wife volunteers with the cats when she can, so. Chief, one more question, and I didn't have a chance to research this, so, and this will be a question for other departments as well. But with respect to Beat 8, is part of that funded through community service districts, funding out on the west side on a per-house basis? You can come back to me with the answer to that question.
I can, yes, it
Oh,
is.
there you go, there's the
Part of-
answer.
Part of CFD2 and CFD3 go to pay directly for park services, police services, and fire services. It's kind of in the introduction, sharing that the development, the philosophy has always been pays its fair share.
So
Yes.
that money is dedicated, well, I guess, that money is paid by that area for the enhanced services that Beat 8 brings, and then maybe the fire station as well.
I'll help the chief out.
Okay.
30,000 foot level, yes. So every time we do a specific plan, there's a fiscal analysis done
Right.
of what it will cost to provide services to that. And so obviously looking at property tax, sales tax is the major factor, but then to help offset that and also pay for that increased cost, CFD 2 and 3 were created to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. That was it.
Two questions or comments. I think it's important that the public is aware, too, that we have multi-year labor agreements in place, police, fire, and the others. And I think that provides stability when you look at what we're paying for staffing. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not, but.
That's right. So
yeah.
we just, our Roseville Police Officers Association, which is our largest union under the police department, they just finalized their contract, which is a 4-year contract, moving forward. And so that just started on January 1, essentially.
Yeah, and that's pretty incredible for a city to be able to get into a 4-year contract. The second thing is, do you want to provide any update or explain a little bit of the advocacy efforts that help offset some of the budget when it comes to either grants or earmarks that you work on at the federal or state level for special projects like the drones?
Absolutely. So that's something we're constantly looking at, is trying to find grant funding to assist us with major projects and initiatives that we're looking to implement. And so, for instance, drone as a first responder, that is something that we are interested in looking towards. And so we're constantly looking at earmark funding, working with the federal government to see if funds are available there. And we're currently in the process of working through that as we speak. And so with each thing that we look at, each project that we identify that we want to move towards, not only are we looking internally as a city, can we provide that, but we're also looking externally to see what funding sources are out there to assist with that. So we're not completely relying on the city's funds.
Yeah, great. I think that's really important. Okay, unless there's anything else from the council, we'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on our police department budget? Now would be your time to come forward.
Thank you so much. I actually just had a quick question because I thought that was a really interesting question from Council Member Howard.
Ms. Sweeney, just remember it's public comment, not questions.
Oh, yeah, so my public comment would be that I really appreciated that back and forth and that question. And I would be interested in reconciling the fact that we are adding 4 new positions for Beat 8, which is really important, for Beat 8, but that's the only 4 positions being charged to the general fund. So just trying to make sure that I, as a community member, understand that those are being charged to the general fund for Beat 8, which is important, but also that the CFD 2 and 4 are going to fully fund those additional services. So that was just a little confusing to me as a community member. I wanted to throw it out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on this item? Now will be your time to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it. And next up, we'll hear from our fire department and our fire chief, Ryan Harrigan.
Jason's going.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Ryan Harrigan. I'm your fire chief. I'm pleased to be here tonight, this evening, to present our proposed fire department budget for the coming fiscal year. So starting with the fire department divisions, the fire department is organized into 4 divisions, each with a distinct role in supporting our mission. Starting with fire administration, this division provides overall leadership and strategic direction for the department and manages the department's budget, payroll, community outreach, and public information programs. Moving on to fire operations, this division is staffed with 114 full-time employees, mostly assigned to 24-hour shifts across 9 fire stations. This is our largest team in the department and our most outward-facing division, which is the backbone of our all-hazard emergency response model. Beyond fire suppression and emergency medical response, this division also oversees special operations, training, and citywide emergency preparedness efforts. In calendar year 2025, operations staff responded to over 20,000 calls for service, deployed for 6,700 hours of reimbursable mutual aid throughout the state, and recorded close to 29,000 hours of training. Next up is our Fire and Life Safety Division. This division is led by our fire marshal. This team focuses on reducing risk before emergencies happen. They enforce the California Fire Code, manage our hazardous materials inspection program as a Cal EPA CUPA agency, and handle plan review, inspections, and ancillary assignments such as the annual weed abatement program. And finally, fire support services. This division ensures our personnel have the equipment, facilities, and technology needed to operate safely and effectively. This team works closely with other city departments to procure necessary equipment and service, maintain our facilities and our apparatus equipment, and ensure that technology and communication systems remain fully operational. Altogether, the fire department manages 16 budget areas across these 4 divisions, defining how we allocate resources each year. So for the coming fiscal year, fire has a $56.9 million budget request, which is up from $53.3 million for the current fiscal year, roughly a 6.75% increase, which is related to labor costs. Fire operations makes up most of our budget, with 79% of all operating expenditures occurring in that division. And as I mentioned earlier, this is where most of our staff is allocated, along with the functional area of EMS, which helps to explain the large expenditure displayed on the pie chart. The second largest portion of our budget is fire support services, which accounts for 12% of expenditures, including the majority of our materials, supplies, and services, as well as our internal service budgets for fleet facilities and IT. Fire and life safety and fire administration each account for 4%, and fire training and emergency preparedness together account for 1%. Overall, the fire department represents roughly 22% of general fund expenditures for fiscal year 26-27, and 22% of our general fund spending is offset by revenue. So before I walk through our specific budget requests, I just want to highlight that earlier this year, Fire completed the development of a new 5-year strategic plan. This plan helps to align our department goals very closely with city council priorities, and it directly shapes proposals you'll see for the fiscal year 26-27 budget. So that said, our first recommendation is for 1 full-time senior fire and environmental and safety inspector. And I will note here that this position, if approved, would not come online till middle of the fiscal year, so sometime in January, so it'd be about for half of the fiscal year. This position will expand capacity in the Fire and Life Safety Division, improve workload distribution, and support long-term succession planning. With the growth of the city, inspection workload has grown significantly through the years. Overall inspections have increased by 50% over the last decade, and our hazardous material inspections have nearly doubled, while our staffing in that division has remained steady at 5 full-time employees who are tasked specifically with field inspections. It's important to note here that when it comes to fire and hazardous materials inspections, it's not a temporary spike. Even when new development slows, state and federal regulations require ongoing annual inspections, meaning that that increased workload largely remains. So our vision for this position is an experienced inspector who can relieve the pressure on the current team by not only adding capacity, but also providing training, mentorship, and leadership to the field inspectors. And we also anticipate that the senior inspector would take on project-level work for the division, allowing those field inspectors to focus on their core responsibilities. Fire and hazardous materials inspection fees will help offset the cost of the position, and as this would be a new classification, that position allocation will be presented to City Council at a later date. Okay, so next we're recommending 2 vehicle purchases for the fiscal year. 1 new staff vehicle, that would be for the proposed senior fire and environmental safety inspector, and 1 replacement rescue unit, which is nearing the end of its service life. The rescue unit's a specialized vehicle that carries tools, equipment, and personnel assigned to our technical rescue team, which is stationed at Station 8 in Campus Oaks neighborhood. Apparatus lead times remain at 3 to 4 years for fire apparatus, and staying ahead of this helps ensure dependable mission-ready equipment. And those 2 vehicles together bring our total fleet needs for fiscal year 27 to just under $1.6 million. So looking ahead now to the projects and initiatives we have planned for the year. To ensure a safe and healthy community, we're requesting funding for incident management software to improve resource accountability and multi-agency coordination. This particular application provides high-level visibility of active incidents, unit status, and unit location at the local, regional, and state levels. It also provides a digital platform for managing incidents. Combining these features allows for more efficient use of resources, safer conditions for our responders, and improved documentation and data collection after the incident concludes. We're also requesting funding for 2 emergency preparedness items. These investments reflect the city's ongoing commitment to strengthening our ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from large-scale emergencies. The first item is an Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, software. This is a cloud-based system that supports citywide emergency preparedness and EOC operations. It provides a central repository for emergency preparedness and response plans, allowing staff easy access so they can focus on maintaining essential city services in the event of a disaster. The second item is training for our emergency management team. This proposal is both for on and off-site training aimed at keeping city staff prepared to assume the roles and responsibilities outlined in the emergency operations plan. And although these items are budgeted within fire, both provide benefits to the entire city organization. And finally, to close out the safe and healthy community priority, we plan to enhance our fire investigation program through additional training and incident reporting software that strengthens our ability to investigate complex or significant loss fires. To remain fiscally responsible, we'll maintain our partnerships with Sierra College, Cal OES, and CalJack. These entities help us reduce training costs and in some cases generate a modest amount of revenue for the city. But these partnerships are very important to us, even more now than ever, as we look out over the next 5 years and see that 1/3 of our current safety workforce will be age eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. So we're working on bringing up the next generation. Moving on to community engagement and advocacy, we'll continue our annual Fire Kids Camp. This is our largest outreach event of the year. This 5-day camp brings fire, EMS, law enforcement, and community together to introduce young people to public safety careers. Campers learn valuable skills such as first aid, CPR, and teamwork, building confidence and leadership skills along the way. Last year, we hosted our largest camp to date with just over 100 campers. This year, we're scaling back ever so slightly to 88. No specific budget request tied to this item, just wanted to celebrate that camp because it's a great event for our department and the community every year. We also plan to pilot a fire cadet program for late teens and young adults. This program is supported by $45,000 from the fiscal year 24-25 general fund surplus and aimed at addressing a critical talent pipeline gap between adolescent and technical education programs. It's part of our larger workforce strategy as a fire department and is being done in collaboration with our largest labor group, Roseville firefighters, Local 1592. And finally, to deliver exceptional services, we focus on 2 areas that contribute to effective service delivery in our community. First, we'll host a tank car safety training course at our fire training facility this fall. Roseville is uniquely positioned to offer this course due to our partnership with the Union Pacific Railroad and the proximity to major rail infrastructure. This is the only course of its kind in California, and it's fully reimbursed through an agreement with Cal OES. Through this training, we not only ensure Roseville firefighters are ready to respond to complex incidents, but we also strengthen our relationship with Union Pacific and environmental response contractors from around the state, really the western United States. And finally, we'll continue advancing our lithium-ion battery response and remediation protocols, ensuring our crews remain prepared for emerging risks in the community. This associated budget, or the associated budget request for this item supports thorough cleaning and decontamination of personal protective equipment and exposure to lithium-ion battery fires, so specialized cleaning after the incident. Altogether, the requested budget allocation for the projects and initiatives just covered is $217,000 for the year. I'm incredibly proud of the work the fire department does every day to keep our community safe and healthy, whether it's leading the industry on lithium-ion response protocols or simply being responsive to the public. Our staff consistently serves with dedication and distinction. Your leadership and support play a vital role in sustaining that work, so I want to thank you for that. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Does the council have any questions? Does anyone want to start us off?
I just had a question. I'm really interested in your cadet pilot program. I'm familiar with your kids camp. I had a grandson who went there, and you go to that class, you learn your CPR, you learn. I remember him coming home and wanted to show me how he's saving a choking person, and they may not be a firefighter, but I think it really leads you into a health and safety in your home and in medical type occupations. And one of them could be in fire department also. But the cadet, you mentioned age, are they going to school? Are they finishing high school? How does that fit into going to college, or, the education part?
Yeah, so the cadet program, we're building from the ground up, but really what we've seen over the last several years is, as you mentioned, kids camp, that targets the 11 to 14-year-old age group. So what we saw is we would get them at a young age, get them interested, and then we would lose them through high school. Certainly with ROP going away several years ago, and transitioning more to a career technical education out of the public schools, there was a loss in some of those programs. So the concept for our cadet program is that late teen, 17, 18-year-old through early adult. So we're catching them juniors and seniors in high school, keeping them engaged in fire and emergency services, giving them the training and the mentorship, giving them guidance on the classes they should be taking and how to progress in that career field, all the way through their first couple of years of career technical education. Sierra College is certainly a great partner with some of the programs they have. So helping get those cadets into those programs, certainly supporting them with additional training and keeping them interested. And then, the idea is that once they're qualified through the community college or education program, then we'd have some candidates ready. The other nice thing it does is it gives us a good look at everybody as they come through. So as they start hitting our applicant pools, we can recognize who's there and who we're looking to hire.
Sounds good. Sounds very good. Thank you.
A couple things. How long is the cadet program? I may have missed if you said that.
So for the pilot program, it's going to essentially track a semester. So it'll start in January and then run through late May.
The school year?
Yeah, essentially during the school year. The proposal right now, or the framework, is to do evenings on the weekends. That's when our fire training center is available. That's when a lot of that age group tends to be more available on the weekends in the evenings. So that's the plan, is to run it that way.
I have a question regarding just the plans for growth with so much housing coming into the Sierra Vista. I know eventually there's a Fire Station 10 plan. it's not in this year's budget, so I'm just wondering what kind of long-term planning or progress is being made on if, when we think we might need to start staffing
Sure.
for additional engine out there?
Yeah, so that's one we watch pretty closely. So that Sierra Vista Baseline Marketplace neighborhood, we have designated as District 10 in the fire department plan. So we've been tracking demand for service, call volume, response times in District 10 for about 3 years now. Obviously, when we first turned it on, we saw a rapid rise in the demand out there, upwards of 20% between 2 years, right? The call volume increased 20%. By comparison, citywide, we increased call volume about 2 to 3% a year. What we saw last year is that volume increase moderated quite a bit to 5%. So last year, and by last year, I mean calendar year 2025, we ran, or I should say we had 1,000 calls for service in District 10. That area is currently being covered by Station 9, 5, and to some degree 2. So it has pretty good coverage, but certainly as that volume continues to increase, we'll need to start having that as part of our discussion on when we bring 10 online.
Mm-hmm. Do we have an idea of, like, are we talking a couple years, more than 2 years?
Yeah, I would tend to say, and I don't want to put the city manager on the spot here, but I would say we probably start having some serious discussions in 28, 29, somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
Okay.
One of the things that we saw that worked well when we brought Station 8 online is we brought the engine company online, brought the staffing online prior to opening the station, and that was to just help relieve some of the pressure on the workforce. Ideally, we'd bring them on at the same time, but fire stations take quite some time to build. So that allowed us to kind of phase in, if you will. One of the other challenges that fire has that some of the other city departments maybe don't face as much is when we bring an engine company online, we're bringing all new staffing to fill that engine. That's 9 bodies all at once. So pretty considerable amount of planning goes into that, and that's why we have a little further out.
Chief, in 2019, some of us and the community leaders got a taste of the day in the life of a firefighter through Fire 101, the academy, and it's a rigoring thing. We're in the burn box, we're running hoses up several stories, I wasn't going to pull Pauline down, right, it's behind her.
I remember that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how challenging it is to move a 150-pound body out of a confined space. So kudos to your training that you do. You mentioned that within 5 years, a third of the force will be aging out. I'm sure there's a lot of injuries. So the question is, how is recruitment? Are you having to knock on more doors, or are there plenty of people coming through the doors?
So industry-wide, we saw recruitments, or the candidate pool definitely leaned out, probably in the last 7 to 10 years. People were interested in pursuing different professions at that time, so we became very, very active in our recruitment efforts. So whether we're hiring or not, we tend to run recruitments year-round, and that's everything from just staying active in the community to the job fairs. Working with our partners in Sierra College, we're pretty heavily invested in an agency called CalJack, and that's a partnership between CPF, which is the statewide labor organization, and the state fire marshal's office. That has opened up a new pool for us. So overall, I would say we're doing well. Certainly as an employer, we are seeing not as many candidates as we used to, but we are still seeing very talented firefighters, well-trained, well-educated, showing up and willing to take jobs for us. So we're definitely having to compete for them and fight for them, but we are still seeing them. Anecdotally, we've been hearing through some of our contacts at the local community colleges that they're seeing enrollment numbers rise for their academies, which is great news. That would tend to lead us to believe that the recruitment's going to get better in the next few years. But we're certainly not resting on our laurels there.
Well, thanks for your initiative on the lithium-ion battery. There was a post that went around on social media that actually made the national news about our fire truck, not fire truck, our garbage truck that was on fire, right? So a fire truck in a different way. So, yeah. And, you know, and so, you know, the word, you gotta get the word out that while it's one big bin, not everything goes in that
Not
big bin.
everything goes in that
So,
big bin.
Anyway,
No,
thank you,
sir.
Mayor.
Last month, we swore in 10 new firefighters. How are they doing?
They're doing great. By all measures, they are, and you know, you would tend to think this happens every class, but, you know, it's like this class was better than the last, and this one's better than the last. But by all accounts, the feedback from the academy cadre, who's still tied in with them very, very closely, they still, you know, work with them on a weekly basis. They say that this is one of the best groups of recruits we've seen in quite some time. So. Yeah, we're very pleased with the outcome of this last recruitment.
Excellent. We're really proud of the work that you do and proud to be able to bring on 10 new firefighter paramedic to the team. So thank you. Okay, public comment. Would anyone like to comment on our fire department? Now would be your time to come forward. Good
Mayor
evening.
and members of the council, very briefly, Kirk Euler with Placer Business Alliance. I just wanted to comment on the chief and his partnership with Sierra College and his commitment to the workforce development. As this council knows, the Business Alliance is committed to helping meet the needs of all 8 economic sectors that drive Placer County. And all 8 of them have workforce-related problems. But the thing that runs consistently across all 8 economic sectors is ability to consistently deliver services, most especially police and fire. And very simply, the initiative that is being undertaken with partnership with Sierra College clearly is beneficial to the city of Roseville, and the chief has borne that out. But simple fact of the matter, it's also beneficial to all of our other fire districts, our smaller fire districts, our partnership with CAL FIRE. And just due to economies of scale, those other districts would not enjoy the benefits if Roseville weren't participating. So just want to say thank you for being great neighbors and participating in this program.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you very much. And next up, we'll move into Parks, Recreation, and Libraries. Jill Geller, our Recreation Libraries Director, and our new Library Director, Jill Nuns. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. I am Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director, and it's my pleasure to take this opportunity. I know many of you have met her, but to introduce the rest of you and our community to the new Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director, Jill Nuns. Thank you. Welcome. And also with us tonight is our administration manager with PRL, that's Rendy Hodge. She helps with our budget development, but she's on crutches, so we're going to let her stay in the audience, if that's okay. It's my pleasure to present to you tonight PRL's fiscal year budget for the 26-27 year. As you are aware, the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department oversees all the city's parks and open spaces, recreation programs and facilities, libraries, and museum. This work is divided among the 5 divisions in our department that you see on this slide. We currently have 95 developed parks, with 5 more under construction. We maintain over 4,300 acres of open space, more than 360 acres of streetscapes, 43 acres of school properties, and 40-plus miles of multi-use trails. We also manage and maintain more than 30 facilities. These include our 3 libraries, 3 swimming pools, 2 golf courses, Mahaney Fitness Center and Maidu Community Center, Maidu Museum and Historic Site, and 20 Adventure Club sites. PRL's proposed operating expenditures budget for FY27 is $58.3 million, with $45.1 million of that coming from the general fund. This equates to 17% of the city's overall general fund operating budget. PRL's expenditures come from the various areas that you see on this pie chart, with the largest being parks, which comprises 34% of our total budget. Much of the revenue in the recreation division, golf, libraries, museum, and youth development comes from user fees. And as a result, in the FY27 budget, 34% of PRL's expenditures are covered by revenue offsets. We don't really have too many changes or additions in our FY27 budget. So to share our budget highlights and how we'll be spending our money in FY27, I'd like to simply connect how we align with the council's priorities. Regarding a safe and healthy community, you've heard us say that everything we do makes a healthier you. And in the coming year, we look forward to offering more programs that promote health and well-being and taking care of the spaces where people promote their physical, emotional, social, and mental health. To remain fiscally responsible in a changing world, we'll continue to seek opportunities to identify and develop new revenue streams. This will happen through expanding our revenue-generating programming offerings, and we'll also continue to seek other revenue sources, including sponsorships and grants. We directly affect the council's priority to enhance economic vitality through the advancement of sports tourism, not only at the soccer complex, which is very successful in that regard, but at all of our sports complexes and facilities. And we also appreciate the council priority to accentuate arts and culture to create a sense of place, as we plan to expand our arts and cultural offerings and introduce new public art in the form of sculptures and murals to our community. As we invest in well-planned infrastructure and growth, PRL is recommending one new position in FY27. This is a park maintenance worker to support the continued growth and operational demands of the city's growing park system. As you know, we just opened our 95th park, and we're still growing, and we work hard to keep our parks safe, clean, and welcoming every day. With the addition of 14 new parks in just the last 3 years, this additional parks maintenance worker is critical. And because this park maintenance worker's responsibilities are the result of the city's growth, all costs for the position are fully funded through community facility districts. We're also investing in our infrastructure by completing some streetscape renovations, finishing a multi-year irrigation controller replacement effort, engaging the Sunrise Greenway neighborhood as we plan improvements in that area, and upgrading outdated amenities like the MyDo batting cages to better serve community needs. PRL supports the council's priority of community engagement and advocacy through customer feedback surveys, public workshops, programs, and events. And we work every day to deliver exceptional services by building a strong, engaged team and investing in employee growth. Also, being an accredited agency ensures that we're following best practices and operating efficiently and effectively to provide quality services to our residents. Since everything we do is for our community, it's rewarding to reflect on the number of people we serve over the course of a year. And in the year 2025, in that calendar year, we served a lot. Over 1.75 million facility visitations, 775,000 program and event participations, approximately 1.6 million items were circulated at our libraries, over 112,000 rounds were played at our 2 golf courses, more than 8,400 volunteer hours were contributed, and we had over 5.3 million visitors to our parks. We feel like we're busy, and when we see these numbers, we know why. So in closing, I just want to thank our Parks, Recreation, and Library staff for their hard work, the city managers team and the council for your strong leadership, and our community for their continued support. Being a 5-time national gold medal finalist as well as being nationally accredited is no easy feat. These accomplishments belong to all of us, and I'm very grateful to have spent these last years with such a strong team as we've all worked together to make life better in the city of Roseville. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and we stand for any questions you might have.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. Any questions of Jill? Anyone want to start us off? Are we good?
I have one question, and then a huge comment. So there was a concept called Park Ambassador. Did that ever gain enough traction to make it viable?
It is still in place,
Okay.
and we have park ambassadors really more in groups than individual people out there doing ambassador work. The Park Ambassador Program is a volunteer program where members of the community can volunteer to assist in our parks. It's still there. We still welcome participation. But we do have numerous volunteer events where we have volunteers out planting trees in our open spaces, doing park cleanup events, creek cleanup events. So we have, as you saw, 8,400 hours of volunteer work last year.
In the comment I really want to make, because we're not going to have you next week to make this comment, is I want to thank you. And, you know, my 7 years on the council has been filled with examples of your engagement, whether it was Buljan Park and the redesign of Buljan Park, all the way up to, most recently, there was a fire at Del Stevenson Park. And the way that you engage with the community to make sure that the parks are serving, as you pointed here, our community in an exceptional way. I'm full of gratitude for your leadership because it's instilled with your staff. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Jill? Regarding the Park Ambassador Program, it's important to note, too, we'll have the My Roseville app, too, which gives folks an opportunity to report a broken swing, a broken sprinkler, graffiti. I think that really helps. I don't know if you want to mention anything about that. And I'm sure you're seeing requests come through daily.
Yes, and we encourage people to use the My Roseville application, and you can just take pictures, you can send in your comments or things that you see. We don't have eyes everywhere all the time, so we really do count on our residents to let us know if you see a broken irrigation head, something in the park that might be a safety concern, let us know.
Great. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to our parks and recreation libraries? Now is your time to come forward.
So I will just start by saying thank you to Jill, because a year ago, when we started talking with the city, Jill was immediately involved and was, I will say, probably the best person to work with on all of the projects. So I've worked with a number of people, but Jill, you always just had a really honest assessment, and I just really appreciated that. So thank you. And welcome, Jill.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk. So one of the things that I would love more clarity on, because for the last year I've just been told it all comes down to the budget. The budget is everything. You know, the budget determines whether we're able to fix these things and when. And so I would love to get more clarity into how maintenance, the percentages are really helpful just in terms of how we prioritize and how we allocate. But it would be helpful to know within the different parts of the city, how is maintenance being determined? So in this process, we learned that there are different tiers of maintenance. You know, the police department, town square, like those are getting tier 1 services, and those are associated with, you know, X number of rebarking in the area, you know, different treatments. It would be really helpful to understand how that has changed for this coming fiscal year and just how that's changing spending, and to just have an outline of what the Roseville city standard is. And I know Jill and I had numerous conversations about, you know, what it means to live in the city of Roseville. And I think we all have a really positive idea of what that means. So I would love to see the money that is making sure that that happens. So, thank you again for all of your help.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you very much, Jill. Okay, and next up we'll hear from our Development Services Department and Development Services Director, Mike Eisen, and team.
Good afternoon, council members. Again, Mike Eisen, Development Services Director. With me for the first time is Stacy Marchetti, who is a management analyst in Development Services. She manages department's finances and has prepared the budget that we're presenting to you this evening. Just by way of background, a quick refresher on Development Services and who we are. We are comprised of 4 functional divisions. We have 78 full-time employees, including 4 limited terms. We have no part-time staff currently. Our Building Permit Center and Code Enforcement Division is responsible for building plan review and inspection. They manage the Permit Center, which is the city's one-stop shop for development permits. And as you know, Code Enforcement is responsible for community-wide nuisance and blight abatement, sign enforcement, and also graffiti abatement. Business and Administrative Services is an internally focused division that supports all the divisions within Development Services. They provide organizational, technological, and administrative support to the department. They manage the citywide permitting system and related development records and data. They manage citywide addressing and base map data in the GIS, and they also, most importantly, manage our project billings to the tune of about $6 million a year. Engineering Land Development reviews infrastructure improvement plans and inspects both topside and underground infrastructure as it's built, so in the new growth. They maintain the citywide traffic models and manage traffic mitigation fee programs. And they also provide staff support for the South Placer Regional Transportation Authority. And then lastly, the Planning Division oversees the city's land use and zoning, the general plan. They process development entitlements. They participate in regional planning efforts with SACOG and other regional partners. And planning also provides environmental coordination services to all city departments, including utilities and capital improvement projects.
Our proposed operating budget is $15.1 million and broken into the categories as seen on the screen. Those categories are roughly reflective of the team sizes and functions within the department and also include approximately $900,000 in technology fund expenses that are fully funded by fee revenue. Excluding the cost of the fully funded technology expenses, our general fund operating budget is $14.2 million, which represents about 6% of the city's overall general fund. In addition to labor offsets, we expect to recover approximately $7.2 million in permit-related revenues next year, resulting in the net general fund impact of approximately $6.9 million. These general fund costs support services where cost recovery is not feasible include code enforcement, neighborhood outreach, regional coordination, permit center support, PRA requests, and other general government services.
So as Stacy mentioned, our total operating budget is $15.1 million. So that's about a $600,000 increase from last year. Common tale amongst all the departments. That increase is driven primarily by rising internal service costs and labor and benefits, and also technology expenses. We also included an additional $250,000 for contracted plan review services. That's to keep up with workload and project complexity. That cost is fully offset by revenue, so what goes out comes in. It's not an impact to the general fund. On the cost recovery side, we talked about this in February at the goals workshop. We're seeing revenue softening as permit volumes decline. We expected that. We're responding to it. And part of that response, for the first time in recent memory, and I'm among the few that have actually are proposing position reductions this year. So we're eliminating 2 vacant engineer positions and 3 temps in various positions. So we're giving some back because we don't have the workload to keep them busy. We'll be taking a hard look at other positions as they become vacant. We fully expect further reductions by attrition as that workload continues to decline. So we're keeping an eye on that. We'll also be strategically holding other positions vacant as we work to determine kind of what the core staffing level is for our department as that development boom is over. The good news is we are not post-boom yet. We still have plenty of work to do. We talked about this again in February, but next year we're still projecting construction of nearly 800 homes, 550 apartments, over 500,000 square feet of non-residential for a combined building valuation of about $300 million. So in addition to that daily workload, we'll also be launching some key initiatives that include, believe it or not, kickoff of the 7th cycle housing element and RENA process. It feels like we just did that, but we're starting again. We'll be launching a GIS-based development activity and automated project notification tool for residents. So this is to increase transparency and just kind of general awareness of development activity within the city, more self-help tools, if you will. We'll be launching a department-specific GIS strategic plan just to make sure that we're allocating our GIS resources appropriately in the highest and best use. We hope to be wrapping up the entitlement and environmental review process for the Phillip Road site project this next fiscal year. We're continuously evaluating internal process efficiencies, and we're looking with keen interest at AI tools, particularly in the realm of plan review and areas that we think we can take advantage of some efficiencies. And then in anticipation of key senior manager retirements this upcoming year, we will be continuing our succession planning efforts in earnest. So that's a top priority for me, making sure that we've got people in place to carry the torch. But with that's the Development Services proposed budget for 26-27. We're happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mike or Stacy before we go to public comment? Small hit to our general fund, thank you. I know you do. Okay, if anyone would like to make a comment, now would be your time to come forward.
Forgive me, I've only been in Roseville for 4 years, so, almost 4 years, so if my question or comment is dumb, tell me, okay? Because I'm still learning. I come from a city, a major city, where the planning commission were corrupt. Most of them, I had to squeal on a couple of them. Anyway, so my question is.
Ma'am, it's just public comment, so there's just, you're here to make your comment,
Can
not
I
ask
ask a
our
question?
questions. You can make a comment, but it's not a back and forth, so you
No,
can share
okay.
your
Oh, I
comment with
see.
the council.
Okay, let's see, I'm still learning.
Okay, you're good.
All right, so, okay, my question and comment would be to how closely does this department interact with the planning commission? Or do they? You know, because I know the planning commission also helps negotiate residential development or commercial development. So I just kind of, I just want to know if there's an interaction, a relationship between this department and the planning commission, and also maybe even the Chamber of Commerce, but I'll focus on the planning commission. So that would be my question.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Okay, and next up, we will hear from our Public Works Department, and we have Stephanie Keeman, our Assistant Public Works Director.
Oh, sorry.
Great, good afternoon, good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, members of the council. My name is Stephanie Keeman, and I'm your Assistant Public Works Director. Today, I'm excited to share with you a little bit about what keeps Public Works busy every day and the proposed fiscal year 27 budget that will allow us to keep serving the public in the manner they've come to expect, including a short list of funding increase requests. First, to set some context for the Public Works budget, I think an overview of the breadth of divisions and services provided by Public Works is helpful. Public Works is divided into 6 divisions responsible for a wide range of services. They are administration, engineering, street maintenance, alternative transportation, facility services, and fleet services. Public Works Administration provides review, oversight, direction, and coordination for the department. Engineering oversees the design and construction of roads, bridges, bike trails, traffic signals, and road resurfacing. They protect our community through management of the city's floodplain and early warning flood alert system. They manage traffic operations throughout the city using their varied intelligent transportation system tools. They review requests for crosswalks, stop signs, and permit parking through their traffic study program. And they maintain the city's traffic signals, ITS, and underground fiber network. The Street Maintenance Division maintains the city roads and drainage system, seals the cracks in our roads, and removes and repaves portions of failing streets. They fill potholes and sweep the city streets. They install and replace traffic signs and pavement markings and complete traffic study improvements like adding crosswalks and stop signs. They conduct traffic control for planned community events and for emergencies. They remove graffiti and pick up garbage dumped on our streets, and they clear our streets of leaves every fall. The Alternative Transportation Division owns and manages the city's bus system. They run the South Placer Transit Information Center, where riders can make Aero on-demand reservations and get help with planning their transit trips throughout most of Placer County. They provide oversight and planning for bike and pedestrian facilities and implement the city's Transportation System Management Ordinance, working to reduce single occupancy vehicle travel on our roads through encouraging biking, ride-sharing, using bus and rail, and telecommuting at the city's larger places of employment. They also work with our schools to encourage walking and biking to class through creating and identifying safe routes for children to get to school, and they oversee the training and locations of the city's crossing guard program. Our Facility Services Division maintains and cleans all city-owned buildings and structures from our city's fire stations to our parking garages. They manage the planning, design, and construction of city buildings, and they also oversee facility improvements ranging from painting to remodels. And finally, our Fleet Services Division purchases, manages, and maintains the city's more than 1,200 vehicle fleet, which includes everything from motorcycles and police cars to buses and garbage trucks. The Public Works total operating budget for fiscal year 27 is $65.4 million, with just $13 million of that coming from the general fund. In addition, $2.2 million, or 17% of the Public Works general fund operating request, will be offset by revenues. The Public Works general fund operating budget is only 5% of the entire city general fund operating budget, which is the same as the current fiscal year. As you can see from this slide, the largest piece of the pie is Fleet Services. Fleet Services is funded through an internal service fund, or ISF, where the other city departments and Public Works divisions pay for what they use, including fuel, vehicle maintenance, and the largest portion of the fleet budget, end-of-life vehicle replacements. Alternative transportation has the second largest budget. Most of the alternative transportation pie slice belongs to transit-related costs, with some going to bike and pedestrian needs, though the entire pie slice is completely funded with state sales and gas taxes. They do not use any general fund. Street maintenance, on the other hand, while the third largest slice of the Public Works pie, has the largest general fund cost for Public Works as well. That said, their slice also includes non-general fund sources of funding, like utility impact reimbursement from environmental utilities for their impact on our roads, the roadway safety fund, and state gas tax funding for roadway maintenance. Next is facility maintenance. Facility maintenance is also an ISF-funded division, similar to Fleet. And Public Works Engineering Division uses a mix of general funds, CIP, secondary labor reimbursements, and Roseville Electric funding for signal maintenance. Finally, Public Works Administration is a small 5-person team with a budget that barely shows up on this graph. It's made up of a combination of funding from all the previously mentioned sources. So Public Works is requesting a few budget increases for the next fiscal year. They're shown here, and they include approximately $130,000 for an additional street maintenance worker in our drainage program to help address the continued growth in storm drain infrastructure across the city. This position will be funded by gas tax or highway user tax fund and offset by temporary position budget that is already in that division. $75,000 is requested to support a proactive sidewalk inspection and repair program using a contracted service. The contractor will inspect targeted areas of the city and address minor hazards immediately, while referring more significant issues to street maintenance and engineering for permanent repairs. $26,400 of general funds are requested to support the continuation of the security guard position at 316 Vernon for the second half of the fiscal year 27. Following the departure of Sierra College from the building, security guard coverage is only contemplated through the end of this calendar year. So in order to fund that position through the end of the fiscal year, an additional 6 months is requested to be funded by half by the transit fund and half by the general fund. And finally, $30,000 is requested to increase the overtime budget for staff supporting downtown event-related street closures. The city will not be seeking reimbursement for staff time associated with street closures for nonprofit events, and this budget will absorb those costs. Overall, despite these add requests, Public Works was able to identify cost-saving opportunities across our total budget, in addition to revenue increases and offsets for these add requests, resulting in a decrease of approximately $425,000, or just over 0.5% from our current fiscal year budget, with no reduction in services. And this concludes my brief budget presentation, and the Public Works Director, myself, or our division managers are available to answer any questions that you have.
Great. Stephanie, thank you. Okay. Any questions of Stephanie before we go to public comment?
I had one for you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I remember you coming before us, kind of showing us in street maintenance of where major streets that you're looking to repair in the future. And And then sometimes they change depending if the road changes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, because I was always looking at Main Street and seeing, because Main Street goes from Washington all the way, you can go to Baseline and be Main Street, or if people were wondering, where their street, what cycle their street's on, or what's the streets close, their major streets, not particularly your next door, it could be in your neighborhood, but these are primarily the big streets. And also what changes criteria?
Yes, so we operate a proactive pavement management system. Every 3 years, all city streets are surveyed by a consultant who provides information on the pavement quality. And we use that information along with the cost of various treatments, engineering judgment. We also work with our utilities for any underground projects. Of course, we'd want to address those before we resurface a road. And we create a 5-year roadway resurfacing plan. So currently our 5-year plan goes out to 2029 and it can be found on our website, and we are working on updating that for the next 5 years beyond that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How helpful is the My Roseville app on reporting roadway, sidewalk issues too? I would imagine a lot come in.
Yes. Yeah, it's very helpful, and all of our staff, even when we take phone calls, we enter them into that system. It just helps us track and make sure everyone is getting a response on what is happening and how quickly it can happen out there.
Any other questions of Stephanie? Okay.
No, just a comment. I serve on a number of committees, Placer County Transportation Planning, SACOG, and others, and our staff is enormously helpful in us understanding not just our perspective on transportation issues, active transportation issues, transit issues, but also regionally, how the dynamics and the at the federal level, how the funding is changing there, and how we can position ourselves to ensure we get as much of that funding as possible. So thank you. And I just have to goof off a little bit because May is Bike Month, okay?
You found your spot.
You didn't see my socks?
I did not.
Look, May is Bike Month.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We were all wondering about your socks.
Everybody's been waiting for that moment at 6:09 and
We'll open
budget
up public
workshop.
comment. Is there anyone who would like to comment on this item? Please come forward.
You're not surprised to see me because it's all related. The parks, recs, and libraries are doing the tree wells and some of the streetscapes, but the public works is doing the walls and the sidewalks. And so it is such a cohesive conversation because it's all connected. And so my advocacy and my request is specifically around the sound walls. We know we've talked about the sound walls, so I just wanted to clarify for everyone, when we're talking about sound walls, that public work in the city of Roseville, more than 90% of sound walls in Roseville is currently being taken care of. The funding mechanism underneath it might be different, but more than 90% is being taken care of by the city of Roseville. So we're talking about less than 10% of sound walls, public works. And where are those sound walls? They are in our older neighborhoods. We are asking property owners on arterial roads to shoulder the cost. It's an outsized cost on them, but it is less than 10% of all sound walls in the city. And it is the face of those older neighborhoods. When people drive from the freeway down Foothills Boulevard, they're looking at those walls. And those walls don't match the neighborhoods behind those walls. Those walls don't reflect the face of my neighborhood. And so I would ask that the budget look at what is the actual cost to take on that less than 10% of wall to make a huge improvement to our older neighborhoods. The cost for the 28,000 feet of, I believe, general fund funded walls is somewhere between 1.5 and 3 million over the next what I've got here is 2.5 million over the next 10 years. And so we're talking about bringing on 33,000 feet more. There's 350,000 feet currently maintained by the city. Your sound wall beautification, that's gonna be funded in this budget, it's covering 28,000. I would like to know what would be the cost to take on that extra 33. Less than 10%, huge impact for the older neighborhoods in our community, and a reasonable request given the size and scope of our operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment on this item? Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. And the last department to present tonight is our Economic Development Department, and we have Melissa Andriano and our housing team. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, members of the City Council. Melissa Andriano, your City Economic Development Director. Joining me tonight are our Housing Manager, Tricia Isom, and Economic Development Manager, Wayne Riley. We're pleased to be here to present our fiscal year 26-27 Economic Development Budget. The Economic Development Department includes two divisions, the Economic Development Division and the Housing Division, which oversees the federally funded Roseville Housing Authority. The Economic Development Division works to position Roseville as a community of choice for businesses, investors, and residents alike. Its efforts focus on retaining, attracting, and growing industry, supporting small businesses and job creation, and leveraging local and regional partnerships. The division also promotes Roseville's strong quality of life and competitive advantages, including our city-owned utilities. The Housing Division administers programs designed to expand affordable housing opportunities in Roseville. These programs include Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance, grant funding to support homeless prevention, affordable purchase and rental programs, and owner-occupied rehabilitation. The division supports the Roseville Housing Authority, the Homeless Response Team, and the Successor Agency. Together, these divisions support business growth, attract private investment, and expand access for housing, all to build a community where businesses can thrive and residents have safe, affordable places to live. The fiscal year 27 economic development budget is a total of $3.1 million. Very consistent with last year's budget. A little over a third of that is general fund at almost $1.1 million, and our budget makes up less than 1% of the general fund operating budget, and just under 4% of our general fund expenditures are covered by revenue offsets. The largest portion of our budget under the Housing Division, at 76%, includes non-general funds, including CBDG, Home, Cal Home, Federal Stimulus Reserve, ARPA, Housing Trust, and Housing Citizen Benefits non-general funds. Not included in this pie graph is the Federal Housing Authority budget, which is $12.8 million. The Housing Authority budget represents a significant amount of the work our Housing Division undertakes, and as noted on the previous slide, quadruples our operating budget. The budget this year for the Housing Authority is up about $900,000 from last year's $11.9 million budget. Our Housing Authority budget funds all the programs under our Housing Choice Voucher program, including our homeless vouchers, VASH, mainstream emergency housing vouchers, and foster youth initiative vouchers. While we have no changes to our operating budget this year, we did want to highlight efforts that we continue to pursue to support council priorities and the city's economic development strategic goals. Under enhancing economic vitality, we continue to focus on service and amenities to support sports tourism, including the new soccer complex and new hotel development. We continue to focus on supporting resources for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and emerging technologies and industries, particularly with expanded programming through the Roseville Venture Lab and small business engagement.
And over the next year, we will take a deep focus on repositioning and positioning some of our major employment sites through site readiness efforts that align with high industry growth, supporting both new and existing employers, and ensuring Roseville remains a competitive hub for innovation, jobs, and long-term investment. Under ensuring a safe and healthy community, our housing division continues to focus on affordable housing development, ensuring that it remains a top priority and includes an increased focus on affordable housing prevention. We continue to look at how we meet 100% utilization of our Housing Choice Voucher Budget Authority, particularly as we see new vouchers awarded from HUD. And we will continue to prioritize and leverage homeless prevention and rapid rehousing funds to meet our city's homelessness strategy and response plan. Under investing in well-planned infrastructure and growth, we continue to promote the new commercial corridor incentives to attract investment and development along our commercial corridors. We've seen a lot of interest already in this area, and we look to encourage more. And I'll round out the department budget presentations with this. The last couple of years, I've wrapped up our department budget presentation, noting that while our department isn't very significant in terms of budget, the city's economic development work certainly is, and it's represented in every department you heard from tonight, including our utilities, which you heard from a few weeks ago. From the addition of Beat 8 staff in PD, the proposed new senior fire inspector, street and park maintenance workers, to the power plant and substation and environmental utility engineers and technical service positions. Each of these investments strengthen the city's operational capacity and support our long-term growth. Together, these departments and their budget requests are essential to advancing the city's economic development goals and ensuring Roseville remains a community of choice for residents, businesses, and visitors. Ultimately, these efforts not only align with council priorities, they help grow the revenue streams necessary for the city to continue delivering the high quality of life and services our community expects. We're thankful for the citywide work happening throughout the city to support our city's economic development goals and for council's leadership. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's a great graph.
That was very good, yeah.
And most often, you are
acting that.
You're the front door for most of the businesses who look to locate here. So thank you for the work that you do. Does the council have any questions of staff before we move to public comment?
I have one, just with the 12.8 million of federal housing authority funding, are we anticipating any risk to the federal funding to that program?
Current funding for the next fiscal, or for the next calendar year, we go by calendar year through HUD, appears to be pretty similar to this year. So we should be okay. No growth, unfortunately, though.
Good question.
I had one question for you, Trish, while we're on that subject. On the voucher program, aren't we also assisting Rockland with theirs? Do we still coordinate with that?
Coordinate with the City of Rockland. We allow City of Roseville or Roseville Housing Authority vouchers to lease in the City of Rockland.
So we don't get a budget offset from them? Okay.
No.
Thank you.
We do get a little bit of administrative fee, which is assists us with our staffing, but no extra money for vouchers.
Okay, thank you.
You know, it's not in a lot of detail here, but do you want to talk real quick about the amount of people who we keep housed through your department and all that the city's able to do?
Absolutely, okay.
I think a lot of people don't know about it, but you know, we keep thousands of people housed through your department.
Yes, so the voucher program, we have about 850 people that we assist on a monthly basis to keep them housed. And that includes about 200 vouchers for folks that are coming directly from homelessness. So that's our veterans, that's our emergency housing vouchers, that's our foster youth, about 200 of those. And then with Melissa had spoken about our homeless prevention and rapid rehousing program. We receive money through the state permanent local housing allocation in order to assist other nonprofits with their programs, and they keep people housed with if rental assistance, like short-term rental assistance, deposit assistance, utility assistance, things like that. Some folks are just one paycheck away from becoming homeless. And so those funds are really, really important to assist our nonprofits locally that do amazing work. And on average, they're assisting between, I would say, 2,000 to 5,000 people a year, just looking at annually. And then we have our CDBG funds. That's more homeless prevention. Yeah, there's a lot of different, sorry, I wasn't prepared for that question.
No,
but-
and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's important that we, since it falls under economic development, all that we do to keep people housed as much as we can. Yeah, thank you, good job. Okay, anything else? Okay. Public comment, is there anyone who would like to make a comment on our economic development or housing department? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Thank you very much. Wayne, great job. Okay, we'll have our last public comment of the evening. This is an opportunity to make a comment on any item that's not on the agenda. We'll close public comment. Do our city manager or city attorney have any final thoughts?
Just quick wrap up, Mayor. I don't know, it's hard to follow that, actually. I don't have a cool graphic. But I will say everybody's an economic development ambassador, all of us. But all seriousness, I want to thank the council for their engagement year-long, but particularly in February at the strategic workshop, where I'm sure everybody will notice it drove this budget. A lot of things we talked about, a lot of things we discussed, whether it be investment in the corridor, whether it be investment in the older neighborhoods along Rocky Ridge, Kirby, what we're doing currently in the Junction area as well. And as we continue that effort, that came from the council direction, not only this year, but in prior years. And so I want to thank you for that. And I certainly want to thank staff for their work and really taking their commitment to being stewards of public funds seriously. I hope that was demonstrated tonight. And as usual, I'm just incredibly honored and proud to be part of this team. And so thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Any final thoughts from the council?
Yeah, Mayor, I mean, we've been at this for a while, some of us, most of us, I think. This is not our first budget. We've seen budgets that are really, rosy and budgets that have uncertainties in it. And I really think that this budget is an inflection point. While we have the resources and we're better positioned than other jurisdictions, smaller and larger and rural and urban, we're not immune to the headwinds that are coming at us. And I think our staff has been really rather candid and frank with us about that. I mean, you think about, almost 2 years ago, the Southern California fires that impacted insurance premiums, and we heard from our CFO about those costs that are showing up in our budget. We're having slower sales tax. As Mike Eisen pointed out, we're sort of getting to the ultimate build out of the city. And so while we have, the benefit of water and electric and other things like that, this budget's going to be really important because we do not want to saddle a future council with some missteps at this point in time. So, thank you, staff, for just a really, really frank look at where we are, and you can't predict everything, right? So, thank you, Mayor.
I do have some final comments, so thank you, staff, for a balanced budget. And I think the reflection point for me is that the same things that are impacting all of us individually in our households, the inflationary items, are causing not just our residents to stretch their dollars differently, but I think that's what we see in this budget here, is that it causes us as a city too, in stewarding the resident dollars and the fees that we get, to really make sure that every dollar counts. And I want to appreciate just the caliber, quality, and collaboration of all of our departments to come together to make some trade-offs. I heard that some departments needed additional dollars as we grow or as we address some of the, the aging parts of our community or other needs. And some departments went down and are still maintaining a level of service even with less dollars. So I appreciate our staff. I know that we have a team that works very hard, and city management that, I think gives us confidence that, these are really thoughtful trade-offs, thoughtful decisions, and we're in uncertain times. So I think that I feel good about approving a budget that is somewhat conservative. And, we'll see where we, see what kinds of things come our way as we move into this next year, and if there's additional dollars to do more with, or if we need to tighten our belt. But I appreciate kind of the collaboration that went into getting us to where we're at. I feel good about where we're at.
Well said.
Well said. Anything over here?
I'm really pleased of the evening that we had here, going over kind of where we are. And I think, we're a full-service city, and, we want to be health and safety and make it great for our community, but we work real hard to have that happen, and that's being financially solvent. And it's just like at your own house, you might want something, but do you need that? It's kind of, I think about that at my house. And I think about that here as a city, and what are our needs, and also our infrastructure, for our water, our electricity, what do we need right now? What do we have to make sure that we're safe for the future? And what incrementally can we build and go in the right direction, but see how fast or how slow we need to go depending on the economic viability in our community. But I'm just very happy that we do this. We do this every year, but it really gives you a sense of what we've been working at strategic workshops, what are the concerns that we hear in our community, and take that to heart and go forward. So thank you, staff, for doing this.
Yeah. I just want to make one comment. Even though the council were involved in the budget, and obviously we approve it, but what I think a lot of people miss is we've got really good people at the director level, and even at the mid-management level. Those people are really the stewards of this budget. How they act and how they position themselves reflects the budget that we get every year. And if they're not stewards of the budget and being responsible and acting in a way where other municipalities tend to do, where it's the taxpayers' money, not my money, so I don't have to really worry about it. I want to echo what our city manager said. We do have really good staff, and we've got some great department heads because they look at it as their own budget. They take it personally, and there's a lot of cities and agencies that can't say the same. So I just want to give a shout out to our staff and the people at the director level and higher. We appreciate it. I know I appreciate it that you take the budget as serious as you do and you treat it as you do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. A few closing thoughts. I'm also, with my colleagues on this, really proud of our staff for their diligence, their vigilance, being conservative. Really proud of our new firefighters we brought on board. Measure B funds are incredibly critical that are coming in, and I feel like saving us at this point. Really proud of our reserve funds. We have our emergency, our reserve, and our pension funds, and paying off those debts early to hopefully insulate future councils is really important. Kind of I see it as like how we're building new wells in our city and putting water into the ground. Banking that, we need to be continuing to bank as much in the reserves as we can for what is coming forward. And we see the budget year 28, 29, 30. And it's not without our challenges. We kind of painted a little bit of a rosy picture, and it is, but we do have complex challenges in our city. We've heard on public comment that we're trying to work through. Really proud of our multi-year labor agreements. I'm not sure if the public really understands how much stability that brings to our city and our budget. I'm just really proud, and I think no matter how much money comes in, we always have to be conservative with our dollars and saving as much as we can. So just to deliver core services and exceptional services to our city. So I will look forward to hopefully seeing some of you back here on June 17th. We have our next council meeting next Wednesday, June 3rd, is that right? 3rd, 6 PM. We're still going to be in this temporary. We hope to maybe move in
Someday.
hopefully in July. So thank you for your patience on our condensed space. And happy birthday to Michelle. If you all want to stick around, we're going to send her happy birthday. We're going to sing to her. And anyway, thank you all for being here, and we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:30. Thank you.